Welcome everyone to the monthly Northwood University webinar series where the alumni department brings you different speakers and topics just to enhance your professional and personal lives. Today's webinar is titled Unlocking Opportunities Within the Automotive Industry. And today we're lucky to have two Northwood alumni joining us to share their experience and expertise regarding their careers in the industry. Before we begin, I just want to remind everyone that we do have a Q&A feature on the right-hand side of the screen, so please utilize the Q&A feature with questions. Pop in a question anytime during the webinar, and we'll try to get to all of them. And also as a reminder, we are recording the webinar. We will be emailing it out to all of you afterwards. So if you want to share this with others afterwards, it'd be great. Without any further ado, let me introduce our presenters today. Nick Andres, class of 19 and MBA 20, who is with Cox Automotive right now, is joining us today, along with Dan Saar, class of 98, and also has an MBA with U of M, and he is with S&P Global. They're both our presenters today, and I'm going to get started by just allowing them to give you a little more background on themselves and their career, and we will start with Nick. Nick is, you need to go, yep, there you are.
There we go. Sorry about that. Classic move. Nick Andres. I'm from Belleville, Michigan. Went to undergrad at Northwood in the 3-in-1 program. Graduated in 19 and then went back for my MBA in 2020. Today, I lead our electric vehicle efforts at Cox Automotive for our consumer marketplaces. So think about the most trusted brands in automotive, Kelley Blue Book and Auto Trader. Everything that lands on those properties in terms of EVs is me and my team's responsibility. So I actually just took this role 3 weeks ago. Prior to that, I was on the new product innovation team here at Cox Automotive, where I was working on kind of the early ideation and research around what we do want to do as a company. So kind of always played in this early ambiguous space for Cox Automotive.
Thanks, Nick. All right, Dan, sir, you're up.
All right, I'll try and be quick. I've got a few more on the resume, being that I was 98 and Nick was 19. So I graduated from Northwood in 1998 with BBA focusing in marketing and management. While there, I was a member of Kyle Commute and also active in DECA, and I worked 20 to 30 hours a week as well to go to school. So I just bring that up because I think it's important to tell everyone, be as involved as you can be, and everybody's got a different path, and some people have to work and some people don't. So take advantage of the time that you do have and the things that Northwood has to offer. After graduation, I took a job with EDS and ended up on the Meritor account supporting their commercial vehicle systems. Did that for a couple of years, got hired directly in from the contract position with EDS to work for Meritor on their light vehicle side for a few years. Moved to Hella, followed one of my managers from Meritor to Hella, worked there for 5 years in various roles, forecasting, marketing, and then finally sales. Then went back to Arvin Meritor, and then ended up at S&P. Now it was IHS Market. Was IHS Market. Now we're S&P, and I lead our diversified markets sales team here. So we basically sell automotive data and analytics to anybody who is not a vehicle manufacturer.
Thanks, Dan.
Yep.
I just want to remind everyone that the goal of this webinar today, this came about as a big conversation that started happening a bunch of alumni that I work with on a daily basis, and we Northwood University is very well known in the automotive industry, obviously, and all of the associated companies that work with the industry. And so we just want to share the opportunities and make sure that our students and alumni understand the different opportunities that are available, and just take a hard look at the industry, and Dan and Nick sharing their experience and how they found their way there, even though neither of them were automotive majors, correct?
Yep.
Yes. All right, so we're going to start by, we'll start with you, Nick. Why do you think specifically this topic is important? I just shared a little bit, but share your advice on why you think this topic is important.
Yeah, so I mean, growing up in Metro Detroit area, everybody kind of worked for one of the big three or some automotive company of some kind. And my whole life told myself, I will never do that, right? And I get to Northwood, I'm an entrepreneurship student, I'm a finance student, and all my friends happen to be these automotive majors, and got to kind of really understand the industry and how fun it actually is. And here I am, and this is like one of the spaces that an industry that I'll forever be a part of, because I'm just so passionate about it. And I think what people don't understand about the automotive industry is we really are the second tech industry that's out there. I think people default to Apple, Microsoft, Facebook, whatever it is, but the way that this industry is developing really is like the forefront of transportation and technology, and the way that transportation interacts with the world. So highlighting that, I think, to everyone on this call that may not understand that or grew up in Detroit just like me and said they will never do that, I think there's so many opportunities here for marketing, finance, accounting. You don't have to go engineer cars. There's a lot more in business that is for the automotive industry. So that's why I think the topic is super important to talk about.
Thank you. Dan, anything to add to what Nick just had to say?
Yeah, so I think Nick covered it well, and very similar to him, I've got a very similar story. Grew up in Detroit. A big chunk of my family worked in the automotive sector. Growing up, 80s, early 90s, I saw a lot of the downside of working in the automotive industry when family members were getting laid off, and and times were tough. And same thing. I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm not working automotive. I'm gonna get a business degree and go do something else. Ended up at Northwood. I mean, same story as Nick, right? All my friends were automotive majors, so you just start to be drawn to that kind of thing. And for me, it was more dumb luck how I ended up here. I got a job with EDS, and I could have been placed on any account. I could have ended up on the HP account working, with Hewlett Packard. I could have ended up anywhere, and through dumb luck, I get hired at EDS, and they place me on the Meritor account, and from there, the rest is history. So, there's just so much opportunity that I think we'll get into discussing a little further into the webinar. So.
Thank you. Let's dig a little deeper there. Dan, what specifically got you kind of interested in the industry?
Yep. So like Nick and I both said, going to NU and graduating, I had no interest in taking the automotive career path, but through dumb luck at EDS, I ended up on an automotive account. And it was really just, being opportunistic and taking advantage of where I was placed. So I was like, okay, I'm here, I'm going to learn, and I'm going to become an expert in this area, even though, growing up in Detroit, automotive, but you still don't know from, feedstock and steel to vehicle driving off the lot how much there is within the industry. So I gained experience and expertise within the automotive space, and I was like, oh, wow, this is kind of cool. And there are so many different directions you can go. Like Nick said, you You can work in finance, you can work in accounting, you can have a business degree and focus on business issues and not have anything to do with a vehicle and work in the automotive industry. Not as much fun, in my opinion. I mean, the product is where the excitement is, and I think, we all have that passion and have that joy working in this industry. So I think what draws me to it is just how dynamic the industry is, how it's constantly evolving and changing. And he hit the nail on the head when he said, we are the second technology sector, because when you get into a vehicle today, so much of it is technology driven. I mean, 60% of the cost of the vehicle today is computing power and electronics. So it's just insane how much technology there is in the vehicle. So it's an exciting place and space to be.
Thank you. Nick, can you tell us specifically what brought you to Cox Automotive?
Yeah, so through my involvement with our incredible auto show, I got to kind of know the Cox Auto executives and some of the HR folks that were hanging around on the weekend, and then they're up there for the career fair. Ended up getting the internship from my senior year into my MBA on the team that actually joined after, so I got a full-time offer after that. But I think, and that's incredible, I think what's so interesting about automotive in general is, in the industry, is we're at this unique pivotal point where cars are going autonomous, cars are going connected, electric, shared, and to be a part of like the biggest auto revolution probably since the manufacturing lines like were first kind of brought out in the Model T is like really, really exciting. And I think what's going to happen over this next, from 2020 to 2030, I think we're going to see a lot of revolution, and being in the mix of that, not only have started prior to kind of this movement to say this is what this was like, this is how we transformed it, and this is where we are in 20, 30 years. I think for my career journey and where I want to end up, I think that's like a really satisfying difference to make when we talk about GoMet and everything else like that, for the impact that I leave for others in the world. Yeah, that's really why the industry interests me.
So you kind of just answered, like, what do you like most? What's the best part? Obviously, it's the changing, the technology. What else? What else do you love?
Yeah, I love the fact that my role right now in our company, most of our clients are dealers, but a large portion of our business is consumers, and we don't monetize anything to consumers. We just provide value to them, and in the backside, we extract dollars and cents from dealers from the consumers that are landing on our platforms. But being able to serve consumers in a way in this like evolving industry that don't understand how to buy an electric vehicle, what the battery insights impact their future purchase, or how the battery degrades, or where the chargers in the area, to be able to like empower that is just like really, really exciting, and frame up the strategic initiatives that we're doing at Cox Automotive. That's what really wakes me up every day and excited.
Thank you. Looks like we lost Dan for a minute. Hopefully he can hop back on. Oh, there he is. No, that's okay. You all right? You with us? Oh.
Yeah, I came in the office specifically so I wouldn't have connectivity issues, and have connectivity issues. So.
All right. Quick question for you. Best practices to utilize the Northwood network in your career.
Yep. So I missed a big chunk. I'm gonna have to go back and watch the recording now to see answered a couple of those questions. So I mean, for me, the most important thing I learned at Northwood, I think, beyond any class, beyond anything else, was the power of networking and how to network. And everything you do in your career will require you to build, maintain, and leverage a network. So learn the skill early, and you're going to use it for life. There's so many different ways to leverage your network. I mean, I use my network of my peer group when I was at Northwood to kind of see what they're doing in their job, and people that have similar roles to me. I try and learn from them to see what they're doing better than me and what I can implement with my team to make us a more productive sales team. I have a couple friends that we still get together and just, talk about, how do you handle this situation? What, from how are you using Salesforce? How are you doing your sales forecasting? What KPIs are you measuring your team against? Because maybe they're doing something differently. Maybe they're doing something better than me that I can apply. And, maybe they're in a similar space. Maybe they're in a completely different space. I have friends that aren't automotive that we talk about, hey, how do you do marketing, at your company that has nothing to do with automotive? Because I think we can always learn and get better from our peers. So, and I think the final kind of another great thing to do is leverage the alumni events that Northwood puts together. There's a lot of people there that'll be willing to help you, but you have to ask. You have to seek out the connection and ask for help when you need it. Also, attend industry events, and you'll find Northwood people there. Seek them out. I mean, look for people wearing the little lapel pin. We all do it. We're there. We're grads, and we're always happy to help out.
Yeah, look for the pin. Dan always wears it. You actually have a really perfect example of attending a Northwood event. We'll give Chelsea a shout out today. You want to share that story?
Yeah. So just Julie had called me one day before the golf outing and said, "Hey, I had a foursome cancel. You want to come up and golf up in Saginaw?" And I'm like, "All right, let me look at the calendar and see what I can do." So Dan Reimer and I said, "Yeah, what the heck, we'll do it." He paired us with a couple other people. I ended up in a golf cart with Chelsea Scally. We spent 4 hours together on the golf course, kind of talked about her experience at Northwood, her entertainment and sports management degree that she was not utilizing while she was working at Mopar and Stellantis now. Can't remember what they were at the time, FCA maybe. So we just started talking. I said, "Hey, let's get together a couple times a year and grab a coffee and just talk about what you're doing." She was in the aftermarket space. I was taking an aftermarket team over here at S&P, and a year and a half down the road, I had a position open up, and I was able to convince her to come work for me. She was hesitant because she was at an OEM, and I mean that's an exciting place to be in a lot of ways. So I had to do some selling on my part to get her to come and join the team, and she did. And I think if any of you know her or talk to her now, she would tell you that was the best decision of her career. So yeah, I mean, networking can do amazing things for you in your career.
Perfect example. Thanks for sharing, Dan.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Nick, do you have anything to add about how to utilize your Northwood network?
Yeah, well, I definitely echo everything that Dan was saying for sure. I think one of the biggest things that I love about the Northwood network is you get to see all the incredible success stories, whether they're people that I went to school with or people that are much more removed from school than I am, and you get to see how they're performing. And really, for me, that's very motivating and encouraging to see that even though we went to a small school with small class sizes, we can do really, really big things together. So I think the encouragement and motivation is number one. But I think too, in my business, being able to talk to my friends that are dealers and get quick feedback on things that I'm working on is free. First of all, it doesn't cost me money to go do that and do market research, but they get to help build the future that they want for their own dealerships. We can help empower them. So I think those are two key ways that I utilize the Northwood network. And one thing that I knew going into Northwood that I knew I wanted from the school was as long as I make those connections and I foster them, no matter if I'm out of a job tomorrow, my Northwood network is going to help pick me up, right? Dan's going to connect me to someone. Hopefully, Julie, you connect me to someone. I see Kendall Schaus in the chat, right? All these people, I've built great relationships with, and we're going to pick each other up when we fall down. So that one's kind of a negative, hopefully not possible, or hopefully not going to happen, but it's there in case we need it as alumni and colleagues together. So, but yeah, I definitely I'm sad I'm missing the auto show, but that's usually one that I love to network at. But going to the Christmas parties or those other things that happen, you never know who you're going to meet. And you never know what opportunity that's going to bring potentially as well. So.
Thank you, Nick. Dan, answer this a little bit. Why don't you need an automotive degree? Or in your experience, what's the industry looking for? What are you looking for?
Yep. So, it's interesting. I was thinking about this, and I think because we go to Northwood and we have an automotive marketing program, and when you're not part of it, and it seems like such a big part of being on campus, and so many students are involved with it, you start to look at the world that way, and you stop and forget that, Northwood is a rare school that offers that, right? And that's why a lot of my friends went there, because they offered automotive marketing. Most schools don't have a degree track like that. So the majority of people in the auto industry don't have an automotive degree, didn't go to school for automotive. So, the majority of the people in this, how many $100 billion industry are at a disadvantage, in my opinion, compared to the students coming out of Northwood. So don't think just because you didn't do an automotive track in college that you can't do an automotive track for a career. Just being on campus, even if you don't work the auto show, it's a big weekend. You go to the auto show, you walk around, you look at the cars, you hear conversations. Whether you know it or not, you're learning about the automotive industry while you're there.
You actually learned a lot while you were here. You just probably didn't realize it. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you. Anything to add, Nick, to that?
Yeah, I think what's great, and it's kind of my secret here at Cox Automotive, is when people hear that I went to Northwood, they're like, "Oh, you're one of those auto kids, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I was one of those automotive kids, right?" So in the industry, our school for automotive specifically, Northwood carries a super strong name, and so I kind of already get that reputation alongside it, and having the degree in finance for what I really want to do in strategy and innovation, for understanding how numbers work and how cash works, makes me that much more valuable on top of the reputation that I get to carry along with me from Northwood. And my minor in entrepreneurship really adds that extra little flair of kind of like innovative, creative, problem solving type mind. And all those, in order for any business to succeed, you have to have a diverse set of people, right? You can't just all have the automotive major kids working at your business. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but having a diverse set of people is going to create an incredible team. So you don't have to have an automotive degree to be in the industry at all.
Agree. Thank you. I'm going to go to our questions here. We have two similar questions, so I'll throw them both at you. How difficult would it be to switch to the automotive industry? What would be the best way to get your foot in the door if you currently have experience in somewhere else? Dan.
Okay. So, yeah. So, I took a bunch of notes to prepare for this, and I mean, this was one of the things I definitely wanted to talk about. Don't be afraid to make a change, right? Like, I mean, you gotta take a jump, and sometimes you have to take a step back. When I was working at let's see, I'm trying to look back up in my notes to see. So when I was working at Meritor, the second time, I had taken a job as a forecasting manager, and that was the first time I had a team under me. And I learned a lot from that. But what I also learned is that I missed the sales side of things and interacting with customers that I had when I was at Hella. And, I was in this role where I was just doing the same thing day in and day out, year in and year out. And it was killing me inside that I woke up and I didn't get joy out of going to work anymore. So I wanted to get back into sales, but I knew nobody was going to hire me as a sales manager. So I kind of took a step back and took a job as a salesperson at IHS. And, after struggling to find the right place for myself for 13 years of my career, I started here, and I've been here almost 13 years now. And I mean, they're gonna have to shove me out the door. I'm never leaving this place. Right? It took me 13 years, but I found it. So, if you're not waking up and loving what you do every morning, don't be afraid to make that change. You might have to take a half a step back, but they're not. Somebody in this industry is not going to not hire you because you don't have automotive experience. When I'm hiring salespeople, I can either hire somebody that is an engineer and worked for an auto company and understands automotive, or I can hire somebody that is a salesperson for a pharmaceutical company. And there's positives about that too, that they understand the sales process. They understand, all these other things that are a part of the job. So understand what makes you qualified and market yourself as that when you're on your resume. Tweak your resume to, read the job description and say, oh, these 6 things, I can do that. Make those your first 6 bullet points under every job that you had. So tweak things to accentuate what is going to work. Don't come and raise your hand and say, well, this is why I'm not a good candidate.
Patrick has a similar question, so I'll let you address it, Nick. Northwood class of '08 in aftermarket management. He wants to get back into the industry after pivoting into another direction. So again, some more advice and suggestions.
Yeah, I think it builds on the question around like best practices to utilize the Northwood network. Like look on LinkedIn and figure out which Northwood alumni are working in the industry and just ask for 15 minutes of their time. I would love to talk to anyone that wants to get into automotive, and connect them, whether it's at Cox Auto or or Dan's company or at a dealership in LaFontaine somewhere else, right? Wherever it's at, but just connect with people. Good things happen when you start to have conversations with people.
Yeah, reach out. We're all here to help.
And I will tell you, it kills me, being a big part of the aftermarket industry when we lose somebody that did an automotive aftermarket degree at Northwood and goes somewhere else. Like it literally, I die inside a little bit when that happens. I mean, there was a student that I was trying to bring on, and it was right at the beginning of COVID. And I didn't see him on, but it's okay if he is. I had a job for him. COVID hit, everything froze. He's like, hey, I got to figure something out. He started doing real estate, and of course, because he's an amazing person, he's killing it. He's absolutely killing it. But every single time I have an aftermarket position open up, I ping him and make sure that things are still good in the real estate world, because it's on my target list to get him back into the aftermarket. Like somebody that with that much knowledge and experience, I'm like, man, I got to get him here. I got to get him doing this. So I love that you tried something different and you want to get back into this industry.
Yeah, that was my roommate, Dan. That was one of my roommates.
Oh, AJ.
AJ, and then since he went to real estate, he helped sell my dad's building, commercial real estate building. So the Northwood Network. There it is.
All right, I've got a question here from Mason. Which automotive companies provide the best opportunities for individuals looking to pursue a career in supply chain management or logistics? Any ideas? You might not have that.
Well, I mean, I think a typical OEM is probably the craziest supply chain system potentially in the world. But when you look at like Cox Automotive, like we sell about 11 million vehicles a year to dealers. And at each of our Manheim locations, our auctions, we have 6,000 or 7,000 vehicles on the lot at any given time. And to run that operation takes a supply chain master to organize all those vehicles and route them to the right locations. So I'd say like Manheim is a great option, one of our companies, but any of those big OEMs, I mean, they're ordering parts in the millions, if not billions.
Yeah,
I see. And go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, and I mean, look, pretty much any company you can go for. It depends on what area you want to specialize in. Like Nick said, do you want to be, moving units around the country, from auction, getting them into the dealer network. If you're more into the manufacturing side of things, an OEM is a great option, but also any supplier that has a just-in-time part is going to have a massive logistics operation. So somebody that's doing seating because they're doing sequencing of, hey, this color seat with this material needs to show up in this order at this time. So any of the seating suppliers, any of a lot of the interior components that can come in a different color or come in a different style, anything like that, there's a ton of opportunity with supply chain and logistics there as well.
All right. Mason, I encourage you to reach out to both Dan and Nick on LinkedIn. I see you've got a few questions in here, so I'm sure they'd be happy to chat more with you offline here. I do have a question here from Melanie. Hi, Melanie. Question specifically for Nick. Thoughts on EV growth? That's a big topic, so
Yeah.
try to...
Yeah, I mean, there's a million things we can talk about, right? I think the one thing that we at Cox Automotive, and I think everyone's seeing, is that EV consideration is growing. We have OEMs and all across the world coming to market with brand new EVs, some in China, some here in the US. And I think consumers are very, very ready for electric vehicles, but dealers we need to find a better way to empower them to sell to consumers. I think there's somewhat of a gap. We've kind of hit the adoption curve where everyone who kind of wants an EV has one, and it's going to take a massive jump for us it's called the gap in the adoption curve. There's going to need to be a technological breakthrough to convince the next population of people to really jump into EVs. So we're working on it. We're building tools that hopefully make it easier for people to buy and understand how to own an EV and buy an EV. But it's one of the most challenging questions, I think, of the industry is EV anything.
I mean, we're doing a half an hour topic here on, people, how to get into the automotive industry without an automotive background. We could do a 2-hour topic. Yeah. On Nick is going to look at this from the Cox lens. I'm going to look at this from our lens, and a lot of the data that Nick's probably using, they're getting from us. I mean, it's most of our most popular products right now are coming out of the EV and the battery space, but there's just so many different things to look at from infrastructure, from the government mandate side. I mean, we've got multiple forecasts going out to customers on a monthly basis, because we've got, if people build to meet the government mandates, this is what's going to happen. If infrastructure doesn't catch up, this is the likely scenario that we see of actual adoption in the market, down to a geographic level, within state, right? So you're going to see higher adoption rates in New York, in California, in bigger cities where you can get to a charging station easier than you are in rural areas where there may be charging deserts, right? Where you have to drive 40 miles to find a charger if you're not at your house, and put a $7,500 charger in your house. So it's a topic we could probably do a 2-hour webinar on one day if we wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's funny. We actually hosted a webinar in the spring with another alum, Dedrick Roper, who was with ChargePoint and a few other organizations, and we talked about EV for half an hour, but just nicked at it. So
here's one, another great customer of ours. Love to hear it.
Yes. Milos, a student, he's a junior at Northwood, majoring in data analytics. I was wondering what the best approach would be to get into the auto industry with a data analytics degree. Any specific advice for Milos?
I'll pass that to you, Dan. You guys are data.
Oh my gosh, you are pure gold, is what I can tell you. I mean, this industry is moving to everybody that is not in sales. They want a data science or an analytics background. So you will be in demand. You will have a very easy time moving in here, because you know what? Data is great, but if you give someone data, it's just rows and rows and lines of numbers and columns of words, you have to be able to do something with that, right? So to be able to create graphical interfaces with that data, make it actionable. Nobody wants to buy data. People want to buy insights and analysis. They want what they're buying from you to tell them what direction to go, what decisions to make. And data doesn't do that, right? The story we tell with data does that. And that's what analytics can do for you. So you're going to have a very easy time. It's just, getting the right target list of companies together that you should be applying to and seeing if it's a fit, if their leadership style, all the different things that you need to be interviewing the company for when you're interviewing for a job. That's the one thing I didn't know when I graduated that I wish I did. The interview process is as much for you to see if you want to work for that company as it is for the company to see if they want to offer you a job.
Yeah, when they say data is like the gold rush of the 21st century, it's absolutely true. A huge portion of our business is collecting data, making calculations on it, and then syndicating it out. We have a whole business called Cox Automotive Data Solutions, which is a large part of our business, and some of the smartest people at our company work there. So, and I'm sure that's the case in every single other major company for data. So you are highly marketable with that degree.
All right. I encourage everyone on the webinar today, look at the event chat. It looks like Kendall Schaus has some advice to share and maybe some other comments in there that others might find interesting. Also, I've got someone asking, how do you find out about Northwood alumni events? How do I get connected to the network? If you received an email about this event today, that would be the best way. We email events and program information out on a daily, weekly basis, hopefully weekly, sometimes daily basis. So sign up to receive our emails. And of course, we push everything out on social media too. You can find us on Facebook, on Instagram, and LinkedIn. So you should be able, if not, just reach out to me, alumni@northwood.edu, and we'll get you connected. Any final comments from Dan and Nick today before we close up? Dan, I'll let you go first.
Okay, so yeah, I guess a few things. There's so many different jobs and job types across this industry. There's a lot of opportunity. So don't be afraid to try it if you don't have that automotive marketing degree. And then once you're here, just find your space, gain expertise, and run with it. You'll do well. Leverage your network any way you can to get a job, to gain expertise, to compare best practices, and most importantly, leverage it to give back. Remember in 5 years when you're out there and you've got this experience that there's a whole new crop of people at Northwood that might be eager to learn it. So just take the opportunity to give back when you can and do things like this.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dan.
I was going to say, definitely live the Go Mad mantra. It's a major part of my life mission statement now. And as long as you're impacting others and doing good, great opportunities are going to come, whether it's in the automotive industry or somewhere else. So live that Northwood idea and live that Go Mad mantra for sure.
All right. Thank you so much to both of you, Nick and Dan, for joining us today. Thank you, everyone who's joining us online. And again, we'll send out the recording. We're going to send you a survey, so be sure to fill out that survey if you don't mind. That helps us come up with our topics for the coming months. Again, we do this once a month, usually Thursday during lunchtime. So hopefully that works for all of you. Next big event is Homecoming Auto Show Weekend at Northwood University, October 6th through the 8th, 2023. So if you can make it to campus, I encourage you to do so. If not, hope to see you in the future, either online or at another event. And thanks again. Have a good day.
Thanks, everybody.